Hi there! I split this video off from my main breakdown of the House of the Dragon Season 3 teaser trailers in order to give it more focus. In this one, I'm going to analyze these intriguing shots of Alicent Hightower, sometimes with Helaena, but Alicent wearing a hooded cloak and sneaking around. Now, it's difficult to read too much into this, particularly because trailers make an art of deceptive editing to try to associate unrelated shots with each other. So I'm trying to be responsible here and admit I'm honestly not sure what's going on with Alicent in every shot or throughout the season. I'm reasonably sure of what's happening with Alicent in the first half of the season. It's the second half I'm less sure of, and I'll explain that. But you can kind of tell, putting these next to each other, that in certain shots, Alicent's costume is different. If we actually sit down and look at this rationally, others have done this on Twitter, social media, pointing out one of her cloaks has a fur trim, and in other shots it doesn't. Now, the cloak Alicent had when she traveled to Dragonstone in the Season 2 finale didn't have a fur lining. And she's wearing that same outfit in these shots. It seemed to be her returning to the Red Keep, immediately finding Aemon on the Iron Throne. He asks her, "Where were you?" That makes sense. It would be the same cloak. And for those who for 2 years insisted, oh no, they're actually going to make a drastic change of Alicent bloodlessly handing over King's Landing to Rhaenyra, I already went over that in the main video. That was impossible even by the end of the Season 2 finale, given that Aegon, fled the city and the deal was dependent on handing him over. And she can't now. And I already said they're stressing this too much. It's not actually going to happen. They're trying to do a fake out, even though it's impossible for her to really go through with that deal now. And now in these two teasers, we see shots of the skeleton defense force the Hightowers left being slaughtered in the Red Keep, in the throne room. Daemon hacking down Hightower guards in the Red Keep because Aemon left them behind. He went to Harrenhal. We know all of this. Already went over that. Question is, what is Alicent doing during all of this? Leads me to the next point. Well, actually, this wasn't in the teaser. It was from a still shot promo they released with the teaser. But check this out. This promo still seems to show both Alicent and Helaena trying to sneak through tunnels, holding a lantern, sneaking through tunnels. Maybe Maegor's secret tunnels in the Red Keep, maybe something else, but it looks like they're trying to sneak out of the city. Because, now that Aegon has fled, the moment Alicent comes back and realizes Aegon is gone, she realizes, I can't stay here, I might have to try to save Helaena or something. And at first I thought, they're trying to just get out of the city by land or something. Then I saw a suggestion, maybe they're trying to head for the Dragon Pit, because Helaena could plausibly give her mother a ride on her Dragon Dreamfire. Doesn't really matter, because ultimately it doesn't happen, they get caught trying to escape. So maybe they're heading for the Dragon Pit, maybe not, but trying to sneak out of the Red Keep, let's put it. And I think they get intercepted by the Gold Cloaks. That some people thought they dropped this point, I actually think they're probably going to retain it from the book. That this is closer to the book than we thought. That, I don't know what made Martin upset about everything, but for this at least, I think they did enough setup that the Gold Cloaks are still loyal to Daemon, that they are going to turn on the Hightowers, that you see them in one trailer shot, it looks like Gold Cloaks are handling a captive Alicent and Helaena, pushing them into the throne room like that. So I think they're going to try to escape through the secret tunnels, but as soon as they leave the Red Keep, they're going to get caught by the Gold Cloaks. But all this makes sense in terms of matching up her costuming, that in this shot from the tunnels, and then the shot where it looks like it's the Gold Cloaks in the aftermath of storming the castle, they're held captive. In all of these shots, she has the cloak that does not have a fur lining, which is what she was wearing at the start when she came back from Dragonstone. In these other mysterious scenes, though, that's where I'm not sure. The first half of the season, I think Alicent isn't doing anything that different from the book. That for all the fears of that, I just simply didn't think it was going to happen. And the trailer shots have generally lined up with that. I have to admit, I don't know what she's doing in the second half of the season. This is the other foot dropping here, that we got these shots of Alicent with a fur-lined cloak, riding a horse outside with apparently guards around her on other horses. Oh, and I saw a handful of commenters question this of why would she shift to suddenly having a fur coat? Well, that isn't sudden. The season's changed by now. I don't know if you remember, but back in the Season 2 premiere, they did have Alicent remarking on post-coitus with Cole. She went, "Oh, summer must have just ended. We can feel the weather turning, that the temperature is cooler." Plus, in the book, they actually say that when the seasons turn. So, Season 2 was autumn, and now it's the winter of our discontent. That we know Butcher's Ball is episode 6, that in the book, they also said that was like the first day of winter. So, the second half of the season is officially in winter. So, you'll see Alicent, you'll see other characters shifting to wearing heavier winter clothing, like fur-lined cloaks. So, nothing unusual there. If anything, it just reinforces that these shots of her with a fur-lined cloak are probably from later in the season when it's getting colder. It's certainly not from the same episode that King's Landing falls. It's outside, they're traveling on horse by night with other guards, and also there's another shot of Alicent with the fur-trimmed cloak, reacting in horror to something. In daytime, not nighttime, but she's holding up a gloved hand, because gloves now that it's colder, gloved hand to her mouth in shock, seeing something off camera. I have to admit that the spy community honestly hasn't heard anything about Alicent's storyline beyond, like, episode 3 or 4 out of 8. And we can only guess. We suspect that, in general across the season, Rhaenyra and Alicent are going to have a lot of dialogue scenes arguing or even commiserating about what to do in the war, because, well, we want the war to go on, we want to negotiate an ending. There were bits of this in the book where Alicent was, can't we just negotiate to divide the realm, partition it or something? So there's going to be a lot of face-to-face arguing scenes, maybe with the small council, maybe not. She's under house arrest in the royal chambers. There will be Alicent scenes aplenty with that. We don't know specifics. That the main Hightower army is still out in the field, and with the weather turning, and they're running out of money, and the Hightowers control all the breadbasket regions of the realm, maybe we should negotiate a settled peace as opposed to, no, total surrender, you're all going to be executed. Can you grant some pardons at least? No. I want revenge at this point. There'll be a whole back and forth about that. The suggestion, and the only one that kind of makes sense, and don't take this as fact, theory is maybe they're inventing that at a certain point Rhaenyra will send Alicent under guard to the Hightower army camp at Tumbleton to try to treat with her cousin Ormond. Perhaps on promise of good behavior, that you leave Helaena behind, and as long as she's kept safe, you have to come back for her. That if you betray us, we can't guarantee Helena's safety anymore. And this leads to all sorts of theorizations about maybe the reason Helaena, according to George R.R. Martin, kills herself, we don't know what's going on with that, is to make damn sure that they don't. Like, imagine, like, Game of Thrones, when they had Jaime Lannister was the Stark's captive, but Sansa was the Lannister's captive, and they said, you can't kill Jaime, they'll kill Sansa. What if Sansa killed herself? Knowing this will mean Jaime is dead. I'm getting my revenge. I don't know. They could play it multiple ways. That's just one possibility of several. But also that you do have a thing where you have royal hostages used as envoys. They did that with that Lannister cousin who they renamed in the show, because he was technically a Frey, but they called him Anton Lannister in the show. But in season 2, they were using him as an envoy on promise of good behavior, that you have to come back, otherwise, we'll start hurting other prisoners. Maybe. It might not involve promise of good behavior for Helaena at all, but just, you have to come back, she's under guard as a prisoner, as an envoy. It might not be that at all. It might be something we can't even anticipate. I don't know. Though I'm pretty sure Alicent and Rhaenyra are not going to be friends again, that people really hype that up because they're just dog whistles. That another thing they keep stressing in interviews is Rhaenyra is going to get very ruthless after the losses they take at the Battle of the Gullet in the first episode, to the point that Emma Darcy, They openly wondered if they can push it so far that the audience stops liking Rhaenyra. That'll be a thing. And people are going, oh, they're whitewashing Rhaenyra. Even as the actor, they're saying, I don't know if people will like Rhaenyra after this season. It's a villain descent arc. Done the right way, like Anakin Skywalker, or before him Paul Atreides, and descending into you are the chosen one, and now you've dragged the galaxy into darkness. That's what Paul did. Anakin did something similar. But you know what I mean, that for all the hype of people going, this is the controversial thing, I really don't think this is what Martin was upset about, Rhaenyra and Alicent. Sparks flying over. I think Rhaenyra's having her villain turn, that's what they all say, but just her ruthless turn this season, that if Tywin was doing this, people would be praising it. I don't know. But my theory is that Rhaenyra will get so ruthless by late season, hardened by the war, that Alicent can't go along with it anymore. That Alicent was the one, this is also in the book to an extent, that Alicent is the one urging, can't you just negotiate a peace on terms? And Rhaenyra is pushing for unconditional surrender, even though the war could drag on for years through attrition. That they lost so many men that they can't capture Old Town anymore. They could burn it, and it's just, oh, how could Rhaenyra lose? Why are they even negotiating with the Hightowers? They have air superiority with more dragons now. First off, they don't have all the dragons, and so it's going back to Martin with Vietnam, with his critiques of that, with, you understand they're going to fight an asymmetric war, that you can bomb them from the air all you want. You can't hold a city through aerial bombing, and they'll just keep fighting. And they can drag this out. They have more money, they have more food, they have more men. They could make things difficult for us. That's also what I think is going on in other parts of the trailer, that like in the book, Corlys was one urging, similarly, we should just grant them an amnesty to end the war and win, instead of push for unconditional surrender. And, victory in hand is worth two in the bush, as they say. So this is going to be a lot of, I think, good dialogue, arguing scenes between Rhaenyra and Alicent, between Rhaenyra and Corlys and Daemon, of should we negotiate or should we just bomb the crap out of them with our dragons? And will we want to capture Old Town and Lannisport, not flatten them and have nothing to rule over? We'll see how that goes, but I don't think they're really inventing anything that goes completely off the rails. I think they're obviously inventing dialogue scenes for Alicent and stuff, but maybe sending her to treat with her cousin at Tumbleton, I don't really know. But in terms of people going, even now, that, Alicent is going to peacefully turn over the city, based on analyzing what costume she wears in which shots, I don't think that's going to happen. Even then, let's take that as a given. Separate question, what could Alicent be reacting to in horror? In this other shot, specifically, during the daytime? Could it be her father Otto's execution? I do think Otto will be executed as soon as the city falls, but she wouldn't have been wearing her winter coat in those scenes. So it's not that. I think it might be that when she reaches Tumbleton, she sees that the city has been sacked, and that there's, corpses hung by nooses thrown over the walls as a display, or something like that. That she'll see the blood and chaos of a battlefield or something. Maybe. So on the one hand, everything up through the first half of the season, I'm pretty confident in what they're doing, and it doesn't really bother me. Alicent actually seems reasonably close to what the book would do. A few more dialogue scenes of her arguing with Rhaenyra in the Red Keep. You'd expect that of, should we negotiate? No, we should keep fighting. There's too much blood, Rhaenyra. We have to stop this. No, they killed my boy. But for those saying, she'll hand the city over, no. But on the other hand, second half of the season, I have to admit, I'm not really sure what they're doing with Alicent. Of course, she doesn't really do that much in the book at that point, so it's not like I'm blaming the writers for, you abandoned what she was doing. She's just a prisoner for most of the rest of the story after that point. Argues with Rhaenyra in a few scenes in the book, then not much else happens until what would correspond to season 4. So while they might be inventing some Alicent stuff to do, it's not replacing other things. I can't judge it until I see it. I'm not defending it, because I can't defend something I haven't seen, but this is what we think is going on with Alicent for now. And these are one of the only one or two things, I made a separate video about that burning skull, that are from the trailers that we're not 100% on, because we got no spy reports on Alicent riding around somewhere at night. What you think is an exterior shot, we would have heard something, but then again it was night, so there aren't like spy cameras. But I'm going to try to keep track of this based on cited evidence as the new trailers and promos come out and piecing together what's going on. So if you want grounded analysis of this and not just wild speculation, please like and subscribe for more from my channel.